just talking about this maternal health program that is doing home visits for women after they're discharged from the hospital. Take me back to nearly 5 months ago with the birth of your third baby girl, Eden.
So my pregnancy was pretty complicated. I'll just say my birth was pretty complicated. So when I got home from the hospital, when I was finally discharged, I didn't have any issues while I was in the hospital. When I got home, I noticed my feet were swollen. I noticed that my hands were swollen, and I just felt a little off. So something told me to check my blood pressure, and at the time, my blood pressure machine wasn't working. So I had my husband go to the store, get some batteries, and he came back, and I took my blood pressure, and it was through the roof. And at that point, I was like, well, what do I do? You know, I asked my mom, like, what should I do? She said, call your doctor. I'm like, it's like 11 p.m. She was like, just see if they have an emergency line. So I called my doctor. I didn't get right to my doctor, called another doctor, had to wait for them to call me back. When my doctor who delivered my second daughter called me back, she was like, you need to go to the emergency room right now. And I was like, oh my God, like, what am I gonna do? I have the baby, like, you know, like, I'm not ready to leave her, I'm nursing. So my husband rushed me to the hospital, and as soon as I got admitted, they took my blood pressure and they like put me on magnesium. They told me I could keep the baby there, which I was happy about. They put me back in the maternity suite, but it was like so scary. And I had no idea that it could have been a fatal situation. So I was very afraid. I was very scared for myself, for my daughter. And I honestly did not know if it was something I would be able to live through.
And so once they got you there, was it just a matter of, so you were diagnosed with?
Postpartum preeclampsia. I had postpartum preeclampsia, and they told me they didn't know how long I would have it. Sometimes it's temporary for postpartum mothers, but sometimes it can last for the rest of your life.
And so with that, had you ever even heard of postpartum preeclampsia?
So this is how I knew to get my blood pressure up. I follow some content creators that talked about their postpartum experience. And a lot of the Black moms had postpartum preeclampsia. And they talked about their stories, they shared their journeys. And you know, I wasn't even pregnant at the time. This is old information.
Oh, hold on, your mic came out.
Oh,
Sorry. How am I doing?
good, great. Okay, great.
Okay.
That's perfect. Okay.
So I follow a lot of content creator mothers, and some of them posted about their postpartum experience, you know, so I followed them on their journeys. And once they posted about the postpartum preeclampsia, I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know she went through that. And then I even know mothers who have had seizures, because you know, postpartum preeclampsia, if it's not controlled, it can lead to seizures and even death. So because I was familiar with the posts, and I guess that awareness that I saw on social media, that's how I knew what postpartum preeclampsia was. But it wasn't anything that we discussed at the hospital when I gave birth.
So you basically learned about, you diagnosed yourself from what you learned on social media.
Yes.
And how does that make you feel? These were just, you know, thankful for these women sharing their stories, right? Because this seems like a medical term that a lot of women don't even know about, or if you hear about it, you think it's on the front end. Definitely not once you go home and you're starting the beautiful journey of, you know, welcome home to the baby.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So how do you feel knowing that this was something that was not discussed from a medical perspective, and that you got your knowledge from social media?
It made me feel, it's just unfortunate. You know, I'm disappointed that without that knowledge, I would probably have been dead. You know, who knows? But fortunate enough, I follow people who are spreading the message in the Black community. But yeah, if I did not log onto social media and just come across these accounts, then I would never have known. It's not something that I feel is, I think we need to do better as a community, and we need more awareness.
So for your other two pregnancies, anything similar?
Never. Nothing like that ever happened to me in any of my other pregnancies. That's why I was like thrown for a loop. And so, I asked my doctor what could have caused this, and she said they don't know yet. in Black women, sometimes they don't know the cause, they don't know how soon after pregnancy it happens, because it can be delayed. You know, it can happen months after your, delivery. So
I heard up to a year.
yes,
Yeah.
and so I just think it's important for women just to have a blood pressure cuff at home and just to know at least when you get home, check your blood pressure. But that's just something I felt like God told me to do. Check your blood pressure. And I'm telling you, I didn't see these posts. These posts were at least a year old, but it just crossed my mind, like, check your blood pressure.
Wow. That's like real impact, or like using your influence to have real lasting impact on people. And so how has the journey been? Tell me about the hospital stay. What sort of happened and how long were you there? What was this experience like?
That hospital stay was horrible. I mean, I didn't know what I was in for. I was thinking that I would get there and I would get medication and I would be discharged. Very simple. They would get my blood pressure down, that was it. My blood pressure did not go down. Or I guess it was so high to the point that they needed to take, other measures. So they hooked me up to a machine to like monitor my vitals and everything. And then they put me on a magnesium drip. And before the magnesium drip happens, they give you another medication, which I'm not sure the name of it, but it made my whole body just hot. Like you feel like you're on fire. I don't even know what that is. But the magnesium drip just threw me completely off. Like I was dizzy, and I was nauseous, and it was terrible. And it lasted for 24 hours, the magnesium drip. And even after that, like I had trouble walking. I didn't feel the same for weeks after that. And the medication and everything worked because they gave me medication after the magnesium drip. But then when I got home, the medication wasn't working. So then I had to increase my medication. But the stay at the hospital was uncomfortable because, of course, I have my little one. I have my baby that's relying on me. My husband is trying to be as supportive as he can, but he doesn't understand exactly what I'm going through. And I don't even know how to articulate it. It just felt terrible. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
On top of the fact what your body is naturally going through because you just had a baby.
Exactly.
That's enough, And, you'd rather be at home and comfortable and, in all your cute PJs you bought for, but now you're back in an uncomfortable hospital bed. Now, what would you say about this, having this experience? What would you say about this program that the state is now enacting, this pilot program to get at-home visits to moms? Because once you're discharged, you're on your own.
I think it's imperative. I think it's very important. I think that it should definitely be prioritized and it should happen as soon as possible because we aren't educated enough in the hospitals to know what to do when we get home. Nobody told me to check my blood pressure. No one told me the devices to have at home to make sure that I'm okay. So I feel like in-home care will be amazing for the first at least week or two so that we can feel like, okay, I'm okay, everything's good. We don't have to worry about being there to take care of our little babies.
And also talk about the importance of caring for the mom because your goal is to care for the baby and then you forget about yourself. But this was a rare instance in motherhood. Doesn't matter if it's your third baby or not. This is a rare instance in motherhood where you had to put yourself first immediately after having a baby.
Yeah, it was. I think it's very important for people to take care of the mothers as much as they take care of the babies, or just try to support the moms in whatever ways that they can. I feel like as far as rest, that has a big impact on your recovery when you have a child. So I feel like rest is important, hydration is important. If you can't eat healthy, eating healthy or just eating consistently is important. And if no one's there to oversee that has like a medical background, then who else is going to see about you and make sure that you're okay?
Right, yeah, you just kind of like figuring out on your own. I remember the drive home, I only have one child, then I'm like, so what do we do when we get there?
Exactly.
Like, what happens next? Thank God my mom was there, waiting for us to get home, but it's like, I was following her like I was her baby all over again. Like, teach me, I don't know what to do.
Right.
Like, oh, this is mine, she's here forever. I don't know what's happening. On top of the fact, caring for the mother from a mental health perspective too. I know you wrote a book about the battles with postpartum depression. So while you didn't have medical issues per se with your first two pregnancies, you really battled with the mental health aspect of motherhood. Talk more about that in your book.
I experienced postpartum depression in both of my pregnancies before this pregnancy. And I wouldn't say it happened as soon as I got home, but maybe like the following week or so, I started just feeling this heaviness, this anxiety about the responsibilities of motherhood and what I didn't know. Not only that, but can I be honest? What I really struggled with was my postpartum body. That I had no idea what to expect. So my clothes don't fit, you know, my body looks different, and you know, I have my babies and they need me, and I don't feel confident. I feel very insecure. I'm very fragile, and then I'm at the demand of this baby around the clock, and I haven't had very much rest. So I feel like my postpartum depression was a combination of things, but I don't know. I really feel like it was because of, you know, just the unknowns that I had to face and just figure out like right then and there, because my mom didn't stay with me for that long. And then also just struggling with rediscovering who I am. I feel like every time I gave birth, there was a new chapter of me, you know, like there was a new birth of me as a mom. When you have children, a new version of yourself is also born. So I just felt like I was trying to discover what that was, because it was a disconnect for a while.
And then grieving the old one because she never comes back.
Oh my goodness, she never comes back.
She never comes
Never.
back. Yeah.
Your life is forever changed.
But then I think you make yourself more depressed by chasing her.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay.
Oh, you speaking from experience.
Right. You're like, oh, wait, no. Okay, let's say bye-bye to her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can make a newer version and improved, right?
Yes.
But it takes some very dark days getting to that place. That's a very, you mature in the reality of the situation. So yeah, that takes a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so how did you kind of claw your way back, especially knowing what round 1 and 2 meant for you to get to say, I'll do 3? Were you fearful of that coming up again?
I was very fearful. I will say this is my happy surprise baby. You know, she was not exactly planned, but I was only fearful because I knew that I was working a lot, and I didn't know if I would actually have the time to give her the same attention that I would have to give my other babies. And I knew what my body would do, and I just didn't know if I was ready for that experience again.
Mm-hmm.
I had to lose over 60 pounds twice, and I had to do that again after having her. So, you know, I wasn't exactly prepared. I was a little bit nervous about having a third child because I don't have a very big support system here.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just with my faith and just my spirituality and my husband, we've been getting through.
And then, so just last question, what would you say to women watching this story about how to show up for themselves once they become moms and drive away from the hospital with this baby?
I think in order to show up for yourself after you have a baby, you have to give yourself some grace first. You can't just expect everything to go back the same right away, and it's okay to not know. You know, I think I had this pressure on me of knowing everything and doing everything the right way, but you're learning. You and your baby are discovering each other. And I would just say that to build your spirituality, your faith, you know, I think is very important. And to also focus on your health, because your health has a lot to do with your mood, it has a lot to do with your emotions, and communicate. I feel like you have to be vocal when you're stressed. You have to be vocal when you're too tired. You have to call a friend. Hey, can you just come sit with the baby for a couple of hours? Whatever you're doing, even if you don't take a nap and you just want to, you know, indulge in some bad TV, I just feel like you need to have a support system in order to show up for yourself as well. So that's what I would say to a mom that needs to show up for herself postpartum.
So talk about the journey of how did you get to the point of writing a book? Was that kind of like, I need to do this for me? Talk about that.
During my postpartum experience, my second postpartum experience, that was during the pandemic. And so that led me to a lot of journaling because, of course, we weren't able to communicate, go hang out with our friends and different things like that. So I ended up journaling a lot, and I felt like a lot of people might identify with the way that I'm feeling. Because when I talked to some other moms, when I started making posts on my social media, they'll be like, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. I wish there was more people that would talk about this. So I was like, maybe I should share this. Maybe I should share my stories. So all my journal entries essentially became my book. And from there, of course, I added my healthcare routine, my workout regimen, and everything else. But from there, it turned into a published project, and I'm very proud of it.
As it relates to that, with your health, experiencing the postpartum preeclampsia, how do you view your health now, like as it relates to being a mom? Because at your age, you never even think that high blood pressure could be something to take you out.
Right. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
How do you view your health now as a mom that's dealt with postpartum preeclampsia?
I feel like I'm in really, really good shape right now. I feel like mentally I feel good. I feel like physically I'm taking my time and I'm doing the work necessary to be confident in my journey with this pregnancy, with this postpartum experience. I feel in very good health right now. I feel like I'm also being mindful, more mindful than I was in my other pregnancies. You know, when I'm really, really tired, I know, okay, I have to get some rest because tomorrow is not going to look like what it should if I don't get proper sleep, if I don't drink enough water, and if I'm not like doing a little bit of physical activity. So I feel very healthy, but it took me a while to get here. I would say it took about 3 months to get here, which would just be like a month and a half ago.
Right? So you're like,
yeah, I'm just getting here.
I'm just starting to see the light of day.
Just getting here.